Hello, Linda from Curtin Creative Gallery. Once again, I am bringing you my practice speech reading of yeah, The Spending of a Life's Breath by Amanda Grace Windward. We're on chapter 3. Feeling alone in a crowd. Excuse me. I won't deny that somewhere during the joy of helping others and raising children with my husband, that I would sometimes find myself feeling alone in a crowd, so to speak, like the clown with the painted smile, and wonder why I was feeling like that, especially when I continued to see all the gifts God kept giving us and continued to give us. It had been a life of, yes, ups and downs, but mainly so much joy and purpose. And I know one day along the line, I think in my early 40s, I realized that somewhere I had learned to be satisfied with living through the joys or sorrows of others, with not much notice for my own dreams or wishes, even. Especially my husband, and seeing him achieve and meet his goals and dreams. That is why my parents and I supported him with anything we could do to help him with each of his job changes, new goals, helping him financially and believing in him. I was living on the happiness in his happiness, and believe me, he was not an easy man to keep happy. He was always unsure of himself and needed praise and reassurance that I believe in him. Basically, he was truly an indecisive person. He would call me every day from work with his problems or ideas, seeking my reassurance, praise, and emotional support. I loved that he seemed to need or include me. And when he was happy, I was overjoyed. But when I was not busy living for his happiness or my children's needs or happiness, I was drawing or writing children's stories and living through the imagination of my stories. But then I began to realize that at times in my days, happiness was not mine, not mine personally at all. It was not coming from my own personal wants, needs, dreams, or desires. Like that part of me had a door closed tightly, or put on hold, or waiting for someday to be my turn. My life was so busy and full of everyone else's life, which had become my life, joy living through them. It was as if I gave up my portions to make certain others were well fed or satisfied. This was something I also did during tough times with the money and even the food, whether it be the meat portions, the bread portions, the milk portions, the clothes off my back, money, time, or any other needs. This was my way of loving others. I'm sure I picked this up from my mother, who was a product of the Depression, and being from a large low income family, I adapted in this way from my own family or friends now as an adult. I know doing this and seeing people happy or content or satisfied gave me what I thought for a long time was all I needed, and complete satisfaction. I can see now that this did not help to prepare me for when I was truly needing, like after this midlife crash with my family life, especially after my accident, losing our home, our home life the way it was in trying to build another. I had left much of my own needs unmet and uncovered and covered up a piece of emptiness that I was denying in myself. I think this was because I truly believed there would be time for me later. I didn't know that I had depleted my own strength of well being to the point of emptiness, and that it would be very difficult to protect myself from a fall such as this of my own, especially without my husband and life partner to be there for me. Yes, in my dreams of the future, I saw myself reaping the rewards of the year's labor, sitting proudly on our front porch with the husband of my youth, Roger. And I was not prepared for him to decide to grow old with someone else. We would not be together reaping the rewards of our many good years together. We would not be watching our children and grandchildren playing happily around us in this beautiful family home we were building together. We would not be sitting on our beautiful farmer's porch or on our beautiful love seat swing that we picked out together on our beautiful property in this wonderful town that we raised our children together for 30 years. Who could have guessed this was never meant to be? I thought I did my best to try and cover all the bases to make everyone happy and all our dreams come true for my husband and my family, neighbors, and friends. I guess I never thought or prepared for if something or someone came and shattered those dreams. I guess I just took that ending to our good life for granted. What a life changing battle we are having now. I don't know everything or have an understanding of how this all could have happened, but I do believe my life, up until now at least, was of great value, and I'm proud of the life we shared together. I believed it had and still should have a wonderful purpose. I know much of the part I played in my marriage and family life was driven by my strong faith and my belief that God was with us, blessing us. I tried my best to have a devoted and loving life, be a good, loving wife to my husband and children, and a faithful servant to my God. I was proud of my family and their individual parts in this life and their willingness to help others. I believe I did my best to exhibit a strong moral code and set a good example. I wanted peace and happiness for the world and believed it to be possible to help one person or child at a time. I was willing to fight for this if and when needed, to arm myself with God's help to do so, following his instructions to love one another, turn the other cheek, or when asked for your coat, also give your hat. And if you lend, don't ask for it back. I approached each battle with faith, asking the Holy Spirit to speak through my words as not to offend or hurt. And I seemed to be able to tell when the Holy Spirit was guiding me, because I would feel the calm and clarity and a sense of love that would pour into my heart, giving me the right words to speak to calm the troubled waters with love and kindness. I felt God beside me daily, like a best friend most of the time in most of my life, until suddenly my husband's infidelity, along with my terrible accident and brain damage, shattered my world. I was faced with a life changing battle, and for the first time, I found myself feeling afraid and alone and unprepared, or able to grab God's hand to help me handle things. Like a dark curtain was blinding me, suddenly I found it difficult to fight for life. I couldn't help myself or take care of my own needs, let alone to help others. I feared Roger's sins against our God and me and the family was driving God from us because we were married and as one responsible as one we were responsible for the sin. Did it show some failure in me to help my husband or stop him from committing these sins? Had I failed him by not trying harder to be a better wife for him or a vessel that would help strengthen his faith so he would not be tempted to commit such sins? As our family began spiraling out of control, I also feared the sins of the father. Are they to be bestowed on the children? I was afraid, and justly so, because suddenly I was feeling so alone and without the voice of God inside me. Suddenly I could not hear or feel the Lord in anything that was happening to us and around us. How could this have happened? What did I not do or not do to prepare or do to prepare or prevent this from happening to us? I often wonder why or how I could have been so weak and helpless during this crisis after all the years of strength in God I had lived till now. Was it because I left a scared, screaming 6-year-old, 7-year-old little girl unprotected, trapped deep inside me most of my life? I know that as I grew into a woman, I was actively trying to save the world, or at least my little corner of it, one child at a time, or even 13 at a time. And my most demanding adventure started with trying to save the best friend of my youth, my husband, Roger. We were just 15 when we met. I had just moved up to New Hampshire from Lynn, Massachusetts. We became best friends and shared our high school years together. I confided just about everything in him, and in return, in the end, I wanted to be there for him when he found his fiance in bed with his best friend while he was in the Navy. I comforted him big time by giving him my hand in marriage. Of course, I was a little hurting myself at the time because this happened shortly after my own high school boyfriend told me he decided to marry someone else. So I guess you can say timing is everything. In fact, we were supposed to be saving each other then. It just made sense at the time. Roger was with me almost every day throughout our high school years. As one of my very best friends, he knew most of my dreams and secrets. Many times he jokingly would ask me to marry him, and I would just say, "Oh, Roger, you're my best friend and like a brother to me, but I love Gilly." This did not change our friendship. The only time we had difficulty was when he tried to teach me algebra and I didn't get it. Boy, was he impatient about it, almost losing his temper, saying, "Why? You don't see this. It's so simple." I knew not to ask him for help with homework after that. Still, best friends at age 21, our lives had begun to go in different directions. Roger was in his last year of the Navy, and I had just been laid off from working at the General Electric Company in Lynn, Mass, where I had been working since our high school graduation and had gotten a job in the men's and boys section of the department store first. Roger was stationed in Cuba and just home on leave due to his stepfather's grave and unexpected fight with cancer. We visited him in the nursing home, and Herb, his stepfather, said, "I wish I could see you two get together." Well, Roger was getting over finding his fiancée in bed with his best friend, and I thought I knew what he was feeling because it hadn't been that long ago that I found out my high school sweetheart, who I thought was the love of my life, was going to marry a woman he met at college. So when Roger told me about his fiancée, reminding me of my own heartache, I wanted to wrap my arms around him and protect him and hold him tight and love him, but the timing was off. I had already been dating a wonderful young man named Joe at the time, who was everything I needed to help with the healing of my own broken heart, and I was quickly falling in love with him. He was very gentle and kind to everyone and treated me like a princess. He was a hard worker and was a strong Catholic, raised believing in and loving God like me. He was such an easy man to love. His heart was open and giving. When my father had heard I was seeing an Italian at first, he was upset, but after he met him, he loved him and gave his approval. Jack's mother, Joe's mother, did not approve of me, an Irish Catholic girl, so she used to turn away my phone calls. She would say, "Is this the Irish girl?" And when I said yes, she'd say, "No, Joe live here," and hung up on me. After that, I had to get my roommate, Judy, to call, and she told Joe's mother she was an Italian girl and her family was from Sicily, but she was a redhead, not Irish like me. So she would call Joe to the phone and then she would give the phone to me. To me, Joe was the older man representing security and solid ground. He was a man of 25, but he had such a youthful, joyful spirit. He could run with me through the streets, jumping, dancing, and playing like a child, and his Peter Pan personality brought me much joy and laughter, the perfect choice for a husband and father. Everyone loved him, and he had asked me to marry him and given me a beautiful ring. Maybe it was too soon, or maybe I was just wasn't ready, or maybe I didn't believe I deserved such happiness from a man, or maybe he was just too tame. But something was holding me back from going forward with his engagement. Plus, his mother didn't like me. When Roger came home on leave from Cuba that year, knowing my high school sweetheart was out of the way and knowing I was uncertain about my recent engagement to Joe, this gave him the idea to finally pursue me in a different light. Even knowing I had just accepted an engagement ring from Joe didn't deter him. Roger began to shower me with flowers, candy, and attention, competing with Joe for my affection in a way I had never seen Roger do. I don't know or understand how I justify breaking up with Joe to marry Roger. I told myself it was because I wanted to save Roger, but I don't understand it myself today. In God's truth, how could I justify hurting Joe to fix Roger's broken heart? It seems ridiculous to me now, or even worse, it sounds untruthful. I wonder how often we lie to ourselves in order to justify our behavior or choices, and just how long it takes us to realize it. I think it was one of the most mean and thoughtless things I have ever done, and I have only myself to blame for the result of it. Meanwhile, back to Roger. When he first came home on leave and told me about his fiancée cheating on him, I remembered saying to him, half jokingly and half wanting to save him from being hurt, "Why don't we just get married each and marry each other? We love each other and both want a dozen kids, and I bet we could make a great life together." And he continued the game, saying, "If we did get married, you could come back with me to Cuba until I get out next year." We were only talking, but something underneath those words was about to once again rock my path. Going with him to Cuba was tempting. Otherwise, I think I would not have married him at that time and given it more thought. This was the turning point, a weak moment shared between two best friends that set Roger into pursuing me and me questioning myself about which direction I should go next. I admit the timing was ripe for such a tangle. I was afraid of my boyfriend Joe's family, especially his mother, who hated the thought of Joe marrying an Irish girl and would refuse my calls to him. Falling into the thought of me and Roger seemed too easy and safer and more familiar, and the future with him would not put me into an old familiar path with staying with my safe home in New Hampshire, an unfamiliar path, and I'd be staying with my safe home in New Hampshire family environment. Both families lived in Miller, New Hampshire, Rogers and mine. I would never have to move away to the city. His family was from Massachusetts originally, too. Plus, I wouldn't have to adjust to Italian customs. Could that be the reason why I chickened out of marrying Joe? Because I think I did love him. Or all I really know is that in time, Roger was just the push to decide to run away from the challenge of thought of trying to adjust into an Italian family and a mother in law that would hate me. Although I would never admit it at the time, the thought of it had been scaring me to death. Running away from one problem to another may not have been the smartest move, but before we knew it, Roger and I were planning a wedding, and it would have to happen quickly so Roger could put in a request for me to be able to go to Cuba with him. And we wanted to be able to tell his wonderful stepfather before he died. Now I wonder what would have happened had Roger not come home on leave from Cuba at that moment. Where would we all be today? But then we began to plan a wedding. Although Roger had plenty of Navy uniforms, he had no decent street clothes or a suit to be married in, and he didn't want to be in a uniform. He was not very good at saving money, and he had always spent his money as fast as he got it, which, if I gave it thought, was not like a man ready to be engaged, let alone be married. I wonder if his previous fiance realized that. I had been working for the General Electric Company for a few years since our graduation from Pinkerton Academy together, and I had pretty fair nest egg saved. There was enough saved for us to have a nice wedding and to buy him his pants, shirts, underwear, socks, and the suit, tie, and shirt we would be married in. After all, it was a small wedding. We didn't need frills. My girlfriend Jean made my beautiful gown just the way I wanted it, and we bought the rings on time payments on my charge account at Ross Jewelers store in the square in Lynn, Massachusetts. I had a credit account established there after buying my father a ring for his birthday and my mother's ring for my mother. Roger and I were anxious to tell his stepfather, Herb, before he died, that we decided to get married. Herb was overjoyed. I do believe Herb played a big part in convincing me to marry Roger. And our decision to get married right away. We wanted to bring him some joy at the news of it before it was too late. He was slipping fast. When we were younger, we went on long family riding trips with Roger's mother and Herb before he got sick with cancer, and he had always hoped we would end up getting married. Now we were able to tell him it was going to happen. At the time of our decision to marry, my mother was recovering from a heart incident and my oldest sister was caring for her and gave me a hard time about trying to see my mother about the wedding plans, knowing my mother wasn't thrilled about the idea. Don't get me wrong, Mum loved Roger. He was like a son to her and Dad, and he was at our house every day growing up. He used to steal the cookies out of the cookie jar, and she got a kick out of it. But she had never thought of him as husband material, especially for me. He was always breaking things and was kind of a bull in a china shop type klutz. But eventually, when she saw how determined we were, she gave us her blessing and came to our wedding, which was on July 3rd, 1970. And coincidentally, it was at the Baptist church in town where we would later move and raise our children. Before that, I never even knew Eldon, town of Eldon, existed. That's the end of chapter 3. So, looking forward to chapter 4. I'm into it. Are you into it? Chapter 4 title is I Believed We Were Meant to Be. Thank you for being with me today, and like and follow if you're interested in this three book trilogy. Expand, yeah, the bending of a life's breath. I'm forgetting the titles already. Finding My Path to a New Normal, and Shall I Continue by Amanda Grace Windward. Pretty good story, if I do say so myself. Later, Gator.